So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good any time of the day or night, wherever you are. Peace and blessings, and thank you again for joining me with just a little bit of your time. So, I do want to go ahead and continue where we left off, and where we left off was where we were talking about the breeding of the African, the horse, the mule, and those drops of white blood. And I said then, and I will say again, I believe that that was the attempt of the opaques to genetically mix and crossbreed and come up with a creature that lacked the capability to resist being anything else but enslaved. I believe that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to find a creature that was totally, had no capacity to think and realize that it was in a situation that was not natural, that was not normal. And as a matter of fact, I think they intended to create a creature that was normal. Slavery was normal to that creature. Now, I know it sounds a little bit far-fetched. I know you're saying, okay, now, wait a minute now, Alicia, but you're just getting a little bit out there. But listen, I have always believed for years, for the past 20, 30 years, I believe that if you see it in the movies, if you see it on TV, if you see it in a commercial, if you see it, they already have the technology, or they're working on the technology for that, whatever it is, that thing to be real, for that thing to materialize. And let me give you a few examples, because here's what I mean. Back in 1931, there was a movie called Frankenstein, right? And it was where they, this scientist, mad scientist, which kind of fits, went into the graveyard and got body parts from different dead people and came up with Frankenstein, who was supposed to be one of the scariest monsters ever. And this scientist managed to bring these sewn together parts of a human being to life. And it was named after the scientist. His name was Frankenstein. So, you know, this creature, of course, was named after Frankenstein. And I'll never forget the first time I saw that movie on TV, or in the movies, wherever I saw it. I'll never forget that time that when the scientist, Frankenstein, it started to move, the fingers in the creature, it had shocked it with some electricity, and the electricity had gone through the body that he had put together, and the fingers started to move. You know, the creature, the Frankenstein creature, and I'll never forget, he said, "It's alive!" I was like, what? Yeah, he was really excited because he had taken dead parts of people and put them together and created a monster. Yeah. So anyway, not just that movie. We've seen other movies where scientists have put together, you know, just trying to see how these different animals, if they could be put together and if they could make a successful other thing. And some of it wasn't because they were trying to find anything scientific that was going to help humanity. They just wanted to see, could they do it? Yes, because does anybody remember the first IVF baby that was successfully born? I think her name was Louise Joy Brown, and I want to say she was British, and this was in 1978. She was the first successfully born IVF baby, which means what? which means there were some unsuccessful ones, right? Or they wouldn't have said the first successful. Okay, so she was the first successful one, and I think probably today she must be in like her 40s or something like that. I didn't follow her life. I don't know whether she ever went on to have children herself or anything like that, but I do remember I was in the Army when that occurred. But that was during my first enlistment. So I think the doctor's name was Dr. Patrick Steptoe, and that he collaborated with Dr. Robert Edwards, and you know, they got together and the first IVF baby was born. Okay. And does anybody remember, what was the name? Dolly, I think it was, the sheep, the first cloned sheep. You know, anybody remember that? So the reason I'm saying all this is because this type of experimentation, you know, when people say, oh, I think that they may have been trying to do this, or let me just say, when I say that I believe that this is what they were literally trying to do with Africans and horses and donkeys and sheep, I mean, not sheep, I'm sorry, and white blood, when you look at it from that perspective, it doesn't seem that far-fetched to me, you know? And I believe that now. Thankfully, as far as we know, they were not successful. But it does not escape me that it's not too far-fetched to think that they tried. We have evidence that these kinds of scientific things were tried, okay? And I believe that's what they were doing. Did they have the technology? Who knows? We can't say for sure that they did, but we can't say for sure that they didn't. And I believe that a lot of this experimentation took place in a place where it was a secluded place, a place where they could work and probably do it over and over and over and over and over again to see if they could be successful. And I'm going by the words that were said in this Willie Lynch making a letter and making of a slave. But, you know, if the only thing that they were doing was putting slaves together and putting mules together and horses together, then why would they say that when you say, what have you got? And the question was, you had a backward, unusual Africans. Why would they be backward and unusual if they were just mating two Africans? Okay, because they had already admitted earlier in the text that Africans were human. They knew that, okay? And so, or if they took two horses or two mules and, you know, horse to horse, mule to mule and bred, why would they be talking about backward, long-headed mules? I think that they really tried. And we have so many, you know, look at the things that we saw, or maybe I saw. A lot of y'all might be too young to remember, or maybe have never seen it. But look at things like the Jetsons. You know, when I was a kid growing up, the Jetsons were as like I'm doing now. Like I'm talking on this video right now, and you can go to TikTok and you can see it, with the addition of being able to converse back and forth. I have talked back and forth on my tablet, on my phone, on my watch, with people on the other end. And I remember the Jetsons doing that. These little robot vacuum cleaners that you set it, you program it, you set it, and they vacuum the floor. You don't have to do that. They're really nice. I have one. But anyway, I'm just saying, you know, those kinds of things, you know, we were introduced to those things. Dick Tracy used to talk on his watch. to whoever he was talking to. Yeah, and we're here at this blah, blah, blah on his watch. We didn't, that was in the cartoons back then, you know, Star Trek, beam me up Scotty. You're on your little transmitter and you can see Kirk and Kirk can see Spock and they're talking. So I believe that, and these things are things that we do now. And you know what? We don't think about it, and especially the younger generations don't think about it because for them, it's normal. They grew up with that stuff. I remember one time we went to a motel and we were traveling, and it was not, and we had cell phones, and my grandson said to look over on the desk and there was a phone. And he said, Gigi, what is that? And I said, that's a telephone. And he said, that doesn't look like mommy's telephone. And I didn't have to, but I got on the phone and I dialed the operator so he could talk to the operator and see that's what it was. But for him, a telephone had always been a cell phone. So that looked strange to him. But I said it before, I'll say it again. These days and not only these days, but we have been programmed and conditioned to watch TV for entertainment. But we need to be watching to see what the message behind the entertainment is, because it tells you a lot. Some of the commercials, they tell you. You know, and you're thinking, oh yeah, this is just a commercial about chewing gum. No, because these old paid people were the most wicked of the wicked. They were the most evil of the evil, the most psychopathic of the psychopathic, the most sociopathic of the sociopaths. They were the most depraved of the depraved, and the most unsettling thought is that their descendants are alive today and carry that genetic disposition of their forefathers. That's what's scary. These people did a lot of wicked stuff, a lot of evil stuff. And they will continue to do it. And nowadays, you know, if I mention it, because I'm an African descendant, I was born in America, but I'm an African descendant, right? And, you know, if you say anything about it, the first thing they want to do is say, well, why are you always pulling the race card? Why are you always talking about race? That's the only thing you talk about is race. That's all you do. That's all y'all do. It is woven into the fabric of this country. Everything that this country has, they have taken from someone else. Everything. And then when you start to talk about it, they want to get offended. You want to get offended? You're offended by the truth? You don't want to hear the truth because it's offensive? You got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. So, there's a lot to this, and we're getting through this section, especially little by little by little, because I want to make sure that I hit every single point that is important. But these people, when they said the making of a slave, that is exactly what they meant. They wanted to not only physically, spiritually, psychologically break down the slaves that were already here, but they literally wanted to make, through the breeding process, which was described in the book that they left for us to read, you know, as the mixing pot for breeding. That's what they said. And I know that's kind of hard to take, and it's kind of hard to hear. It was hard for me to hear. But it wasn't hard for me to believe, because I've been here for a little minute. I know what I've been through. Okay? All right, gotta go. Time is winding up. Thank you so much for joining me. Peace and blessings. I love y'all. Love y'all. I'm telling you this truth because I want you to know the truth, because know the truth and the truth will make you free. Stay woke, y'all. Stay woke. Talk to you later.